Long ago, in the land of Israel, there lived a young shepherd boy named David. He was the youngest in his family, small in size, but big in faith. Though he was just a boy, God saw something special in David's heart. His home was the green hills of Bethlehem, where he watched over his father's sheep. With a simple robe and a sling in his hand, he spent his days under the soft sunlight, surrounded by the peace of nature. David's life was a journey of courage, faith, and trust in God. From protecting his flock to facing giants, David learned that true strength comes from the Lord, not from our own size or power. David was a shepherd who cared for his sheep with love and faithfulness. Every morning, he would lead them to fresh pastures. "Come on, little ones, let's go," he'd say, his voice gentle and kind. He wasn't just a keeper of sheep, he was their protector. He played his harp, filling the hills with beautiful music, and his heart was filled with a simple, pure joy. He learned about courage not in a school or a palace, but in the quiet, lonely fields where he had to defend his flock from predators like lions and bears. It was in these moments, with no one else around, that David learned to rely completely on God for strength. But while David was tending his sheep in peace, the nation of Israel was in turmoil. They were at war with the Philistines, and the two armies were gathered for battle in the valley of Elah. Day after day, a fearsome giant named Goliath would stride out from the Philistine ranks. He was enormous, covered in bronze armor, and his voice boomed across the valley. "Send me a man to fight!" he would roar. The Israelite soldiers, even the bravest among them, would tremble in fear. "He's too big," they whispered among themselves. A shadow of dread fell over the entire army. For 40 days, this giant mocked them and their God, and no one dared to face him. The camp was filled with fear and despair. One day, David's father sent him to the battlefield to bring food to his older brothers who were soldiers in King Saul's army. When David arrived, he heard the giant's challenge and saw the fear on everyone's faces. But David didn't feel fear. He felt righteous anger. He turned to the soldiers and asked, "Who is this giant that he should defy the armies of the living God?" His older brother, Eliab, heard him and was angry. "Go back to your sheep," he said, mocking David's youth and his role as a shepherd. But while others saw an unbeatable giant, David saw an opportunity to honor God. He knew that God was bigger than any giant. His faith wasn't shaken by what he saw, it was strengthened by who he believed in. David's confident words eventually reached King Saul. When David was brought before the king, he spoke with a courage that surprised everyone. "The Lord who saved me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will save me from the hand of this Philistine," he declared. King Saul, seeing the young boy's unwavering faith, finally agreed. "Go, and may the Lord be with you," he said. They tried to put the king's own heavy armor on David, but it was too big and clumsy. David took it off. He wouldn't trust in bronze helmets or heavy swords. He picked up what he knew: his shepherd's staff, his sling, and 5 smooth stones from a nearby stream. David trusted in God, not in the weapons of man. The moment of truth arrived. David walked out onto the battlefield, a small shepherd boy facing a towering, armored warrior. Goliath laughed when he saw him. "Am I a dog that you come at me with a stick?" he jeered. But David's voice rang out, clear and bold. You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied." With those words, David placed a stone in his sling, spun it around his head, and let it fly. The stone soared through the air and struck the giant right on his forehead. Goliath stumbled and fell face down on the ground. With one small stone and a whole lot of faith in God, David had defeated the giant. Instantly, the battlefield erupted. The Philistine army, seeing their champion fall, turned and fled in panic. The Israelite soldiers, who had been paralyzed by fear just moments before, let out a mighty roar of victory and chased after them. People cheered, children jumped for joy, and the entire nation celebrated. God had used a young, humble shepherd boy to show the whole world that faith is far greater than fear. David didn't seek glory for himself. He smiled humbly, knowing the victory belonged to God. He became a hero in Israel that day, but his heart remained focused on the one who gave him the strength. This incredible victory was just the beginning of David's journey. As he stood on a hilltop watching the sunset, he would often pray, his heart full of gratitude. God was preparing him for an even greater purpose. The same faith, courage, and humility he showed in the shepherd's field and on the battlefield were the qualities God was shaping in him to one day become the king and leader of his people, Israel. David would go on to be known as a man after God's own heart, a writer of beautiful psalms, and one of the greatest kings in history. His story teaches us a powerful lesson. God doesn't look at our size, our strength, or how important we seem to the world. He looks at our heart. True faith in God can help us overcome any giant we face in our lives. As the Bible says, the battle is the Lord's. Remember, big faith defeats big fears. Thanks for watching David, the Giant Slayer. If you loved this story and felt inspired, please give this video a like, share it with someone who needs some encouragement, and subscribe for more inspiring Bible adventures. You can watch more heroes of faith in our Bible character playlist. Let's grow in faith together. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you in the next story.